thought this thing would have gave me a chance. Um, and what was I gonna come on and talk about? Hey, thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind Sports and Entertainment clip. Um, I want to talk about Mr. Nick Wright of First Things First. One, I was a little pissed off this morning, even though we just had one of the best. I don't know if best draft per se, but a solid draft with a couple of interesting developments and all of the draft night movement. But we just had an interesting first week of NBA free agency for the year. And in some ways, some balance, some parity, all of that's kind of been restored to the NBA. And I hadn't heard LeBron James for a couple of weeks, actually all through the playoffs, really, for obvious reasons. But in years past, speaking of Nick Wright and First Things First, how LeBron could be positioned for a championship, dominated, the playoffs, the finals, after the finals, all the way up until like 2 weeks or a week before NFL preseason. And maybe even the last year in Cleveland, maybe even 2 weeks before the regular season of the NFL. I mean, they were still, especially First Things First, was all LeBron. So I noticed, I get in the car yesterday and today. I get in the car, they're talking about a LeBron topic, and then they go to like one more topic, one other basketball topic or another major headline in sports. They come back from the break. They open with some other topic, some non-LeBron topic, and then the next topic is the Los Angeles Lakers or LeBron. And it's just like, how the hell is this all about how we get LeBron to the... I mean, it's just amazing that the guy's name drives everything NBA-wise the way that it does. And like I said, right now with Russell Westbrook being out there, potentially moving, you could steer the conversation on to that. It's some different teams that could be in play for that, such as my Detroit Pistons. But the Miami Heat are out there, I guess, and other teams may be exploring how to make that happen. But again, it's just disgusting that we go back to this one man. I don't know, man. It's lazy sports talk to me. I mentioned this last week to a guy that was tweeting about the NBA. Like, these guys, some of these experts, talk show hosts, they don't want to study 30 or the other 29 teams. They just want to sit and only really have to pay attention to all the scenarios surrounding one team. And that's what they do. Or a few teams. But obviously with Golden State being diminished with some of the departures and whatnot and the injuries, they're not as easy to, they're not the greatest topic to be talking about right now. But so I noticed that today, and that's a little disheartening that even after one of the best free agency periods, it's all about how LeBron can get into the finals next year and possibly win another title. That's going to apparently dominate sports talk until we get into the NFL season. And I know Kawhi will be mixed in there, and some other stuff as well, but to split up LeBron over a commercial break and the way that the show is put together, like, why couldn't he just be one topic or two topics in the same segment, and then we move on to the other people out here? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Then I get off work and I check out Nick Wright on Mad Dog Unleashed, and oddly he opens up the show kind of saluting and praising Serena Williams for her accomplishments with this British Open, golf, Wimbledon, and I've struggled with listening to some of these guys on the telephone. Bomani Jones, Stephen A. is horrific at times with handling calls and letting callers come who support their show come on and voice their opinions. And so a guy calls in to make a comment about Serena, and the guy goes into immediately to how it's been long ignored, how Serena has used PEDs throughout her career to make her the dominant force that she has been for the past 20 years. And I can understand if you're a journalist or a reporter or a talk show host and you have certain standards. You don't want certain wild accusations or untruths or unfounded stuff to be recklessly put out there on your program, on your platform. I fully understand that. But the guy that called in said that he did coin it very in a strange way, mentioning that he worked in the vein industry. Veins in the legs, I guess throughout the body in general. But so Nick Wright goes and takes some shots at him. I didn't even know he says, I didn't know there was such thing as the vein industry. And immediately, like from that point, the call just became adversarial versus let's see what this guy has to say. So then he gives the guy the floor and says, well, proceed with your point. And the guy starts setting it up. And the way that he starts talking about the condition, like he knows the condition that Serena has in terms of her veins in her legs or her circulation in her legs and whatnot. And so to me, I key in like, oh, this guy, as crazy as he may have sounded in the intro, he might know what he's talking about. So he mentions the condition that Serena has. And then as soon as he starts to lay the groundwork for why he's accusing her of using the PEDs, Nick Wright just cuts him off. And then says, basically shuts down his call and then says, thank you for, thanks for the call. And then just casts aside, whatever the guy was getting ready to get into, cracked another joke on him. And then he makes a challenge and says, well, what you should do, and the guy was calling from Atlanta, what you should do is take a huge leave of absence from your job and go find the real proof and really, explore this and get all the proof and make your case. And I'm sitting here like, well, how much of a penis could you be? When the guy was trying to make his case on here, and whether or not, nobody was going to take that and run with it as fact or as total truth. But if the guy is speaking knowledgeably about certain subjects and using the right medical terms and whatnot, it's something to think about. It's something that you can go and Google. Maybe you go and check it. But the guy was talking about how Serena, and he, Nick Wright had asked him let me know how many PED tests she's failed. Obviously, I don't think we know of any where she's outright failed any tests. But he says, but the guy said, well, she did skip one. And then he says, well, after she came back from, the birth of her daughter and the incidents, once the child was born and the stuff the life-threatening situations that Serena went through. And as she came back, he said something, she skipped a test and was getting ready to get into something like when you change up I don't know, man. It was interesting to me. And I've said this before. I had to tweet to the Black Eagle cat, Joe Madison, the political guy on XM Radio. He's notorious for, if a Republican or a conservative calls in And as soon as they, and it may be some of the more hard right people, but as soon as they get into their take, he shuts it down. And I'm like, this was during voting season. And I'm like, why wouldn't you listen to that person and then respond at the end so that your listeners who believe what you believe, let them encounter that and let them hear the logic or the facts or the perspective that you counterpoint that with, and then they can go research that. And then, when you encounter some of these extremists and some of these people on the streets, maybe it's more of a discussion, or how to debunk what they're talking about. But why shut somebody down just because they have a different opinion? I guess within reason, it can't be so far out there. But yeah, so I had to make that comment. I tweeted that out to Joe Madison, like, yeah, that take might just like this situation. That take might have been a little wild, might have been a little out there, but if there is some semblance of fact involved in the overall statement, let me hear it out. Let me hear it out. And so, like I said, I thought it was I don't know, man. I turned from the show after that. I was like, you know what, Nick, man, I don't even respect that, man. Like, the dude, it wasn't like he was talking like, Serena had alien blood and, from the movie or the franchise Aliens with the acid in it and all that. It wasn't like he was saying some wild stuff. And now I'll never know. So, and it's kind of like you insult your listeners. Like, well, now I don't get a chance to discern, or to determine whether that guy was out there or not. We just never know. But some interesting things were at least mentioned. And, the man wasn't allowed to expound on it. So, I don't know, man. Once again, I'm getting ready to get on off here. I really was just doing a test show to see how this program worked when I'm on Wi-Fi versus being on the road. I'm getting ready to possibly take a trip next weekend to a fight. And my hope one of these days is to be able to mobile live stream. And but I noticed with this program that I'm using on my phone, this app, it doesn't really work that well on mobile. So me driving down the road thinking that I'm going to be able to mobile live stream and have a signal that can carry, and not have a whole bunch of skips and breaks and then it just drops sometime too. So yeah, I got some work to do. So anyway, man, like I said, this was just a test. I'm just riffing on Nick Wright a little bit. I mean, for the most part, man, I mean, his fandom towards LeBron James is a little problematic for me at times because the league is bigger than him. And not all of us strictly listen to NBA basketball talk to hear how LeBron can win another ring or do something with his 3-6 record or whatever it is, 3-5 record in the in finals. So I don't know, and despite the fact that the caller's take might have been a little out there, if he kept it within a certain spectrum, or I don't know, if it wasn't so wild out there and it wasn't disrespectful, it wasn't racist, it wasn't completely offensive or vulgar, or calling Serena out of her name and whatnot. If he was coming with some factual information that the rest of us who don't, because I don't really look into PEDs in the sport. Again, even with boxing, I expect the people that are in charge of it all to make sure the playing field is what they want it to be. Serena can't be the only person if she is using, she can't be the only person using. I mean, and she's been winning all these years. Somebody else would say, "Well, hell, the hell with like just like Barry Bonds, the hell with it. I'm tired of I'm tired of coming in. I'm tired of being good. Being good just ain't enough. Being good just isn't good enough. Whatever the saying was that drove Bonds over the towards PED use. So yeah, so I don't know if I believed she's any dirtier or at more of an advantage than the field, because if there's money to be made and everybody knows what the testing is and isn't, I mean, hell, you would be foolish to sit here and try to play clean. And, the suspicion is that everybody is playing, or the majority of the better players are playing dirty and earning all the big money. Now, maybe the fact there is that, you shouldn't have to subject yourself and your body and your well-being, your long-term health. You shouldn't have to subject it to certain dangers just to compete in this sport. But again, if the organizers, the PTA and all of that, if they don't put these, the right stuff and testing in place and whatnot, then what can you do? Anyway, man, let me get on off here, hit this gym real quick. I just wanted, like I said, to test out this thing. I'll holler at you tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow, 7 a.m. for anybody that's still here, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, ESPN Plus, the Rob Brandt versus Ryoto Murata card will be going on. So you might want to wake up a little early, get all your preparation stuff out the way. So there's 7, you might be able to sit there and check out the action on a number of devices, just not just your phone. Whatever you set up as a device, whether that's your smart TV, your phone, a tablet, a laptop, you have those options. I'm out, man. Peace.